Hi everyone. How are you doing, guys? How is everyone? Right, I need you all to find the chat function first before I introduce myself and talk about what we're doing, because it will become apparent. So there's two things that you need to do. One is grab a notebook or a piece of paper or something to scribble on, preferably not the dog, or anything, anyone else, I guess. Um, Find the chat function as well. So chat function, a notebook, and a pen. When you find the chat function, say hello to me. There's a couple of people already in there. Hi, Andy. Hi, Evelyn. Hi, Cara. Oh, it's going. Oh, it's going. Oh, there's a lot of people. This is what I like to see. Right. Type yes if you've got yourself a notebook and a pen. The reason why I haven't got it on presenter slides is because I'm going to be wanting to use the chat function. And if you're on presenter, you can't see the chat function as well. Okay, so we've got lots of yeses. I'll do the start and I'll introduce myself, and then I'll just give people a second warning that they need a paper and pen to get going. So, what is good records management? Very good question. Have I ever seen it as a consultant? No. Um, is it going to be something that people can achieve? Potentially. Um, it's an interesting kind of place to be. Elizabeth, are you going to deal with the waiting in the lobby folk?
Yep.
Okay. I'm sure there'll be plenty more coming in going, oh no, I forgot. But yes, today I want to talk about an opportunity that was presented, funnily enough, by the ICO. I don't think much of the ICO, but that's my opinion, not IRMS opinion. But there's something that I did actually use that I thought was a good starter for 10. So, my name's Emily Overton. Hello. I have, for my sins, been known as RM Girl since 2007 when I started on Twitter. A funny approach to that was my first nickname on Twitter was Lady Tall, and I realised that I sounded like, well, not the kind of customer that I would be looking for with regard to records management. So I soon changed it, and I'm no longer Lady Tall. I have been doing records management since 2005. And that means that next month I will be doing it 20 years. And it's like, woohoo! So this is basically a 20 years anniversary webinar. Woo! So yay for you lot, I guess I think is the way to think about it. So yes, I'm currently in putting my endeavours into a company called CVG Solutions Limited with Christina Vanity Goodchild. I'm doing much more data protection lately as a data protection officer as a service, or fractional DPO, fractional data protection officer, which basically means is that you don't need to hire somebody in full time, but you can get my services for a small amount of hours a month. And we're mostly approaching small to medium enterprises. So if you know anyone in businesses that potentially are linked to your councils or to your public sector organisations, or you might actually even have friends or family that have got their own businesses that you think might need some sort of help, we make it much more affordable for people to have a data protection officer. I went to Dundee University and I did my PG dip in records management and information rights. I keep on playing with the idea of making it a full master's, but if I do that, that means I've got a pathway to do a doctorate, and well, Dr. Emily Overton sounds really good. I don't, if I don't do my master's, I can't do my doctorate. That's what I looked at. I have been in the public sector. That's where I started everything. So I've done city, I've done NHS, I've done county councils, and I've also been a civil servant. So I've been there, I've done that with you guys. I've been a records manager, I've been a filing girl, and I've done everything in that role. I was originally taught on the job, and I now basically spend my entire time doing things like blogs and helping people out and doing things like this. And I get to have an opinion for a change. I say for a change, I've always had an opinion. Elizabeth will tell you that. Um, I drew this a long time ago, but this was basically the representation of a life cycle, because although those of us who are nerdy enough to consider the records management continuum, that doesn't sell anything. Nobody understands it. It's far too nerdy. I may as well be doing Star Trek signals to people if I try to start talking about the continuum with anyone, especially senior management. So if anybody would like to take a screenshot of this, this is what I have actually used in the past to explain the stages of records. And it's not to say that this is just a one-way conveyor belt. You do have the archive clause, but there's a clause, I guess, that's not really represented, which drags things out of review and puts it back into storage, or puts storage back into use, because we like to not recreate the wheel. And, you know, disposition doesn't necessarily always mean going into the confidential waste. It can mean just leaving the organization that you're in. So going to your local place of deposit, for example, is another form of disposition. Sorry, I just realized that I hadn't clicked new messages on the chat. So yes, anything from creation through to use through to storage can always go backwards. But the biggest thing here, and I don't know, Elizabeth, can you see my mouse on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to make big grand gestures then. The biggest thing that I've noticed with a lot of public sector organisations specifically is that everything starts after storage. Everything goes into storage. So there's like an invisible wall between storage and review, because that's where everything stops. We are renowned for holding on to a lot of information, and that causes you a lot of problems with things like FOI, because if you've got it, you've got to give it. So ideally, what we need to be looking at is opening up that wall and starting the review and disposition process. And if you'd like to talk to me about that in more detail, then obviously you can get in contact with me. My email is at the end of the slides. All right. This might be a bit traumatic for some of you. So hold on to your seats for this kind of task. What we're going to be going through is 51 tasks that are required to assess how good your records management is. I'm going to be a bit mean on this, is that it's either a tick or a cross. So it's either a yes or a no. If you don't know, it's a no. If you do know and you can be sure of it, you can tick it. I have had somebody score 1 out of all of the numbers, so 1 out of 51. I've never had somebody score 0, but it's definitely a possibility. So make sure that you've got your notebook and your pen actually works, because we're about to go into it, and I'm going to have to go through them quite quickly to make sure that we meet all those in the hour, but I'm sure Elizabeth will give me a warning if I'm running out of time. Okay, so starting first, do you have a nominated appropriate skill lead to coordinate records management within your business? So I'd like to think that everybody that's on here that's interested in this webinar is a records manager, but that's not always the case. You could have somebody else who is specifically the records manager or does the records management role. But if they don't have a responsibility for it as a whole, you can't tick it. So it's either a tick or a cross to number one. Number two, do they have authority and resources to fulfill this responsibility effectively? I'd hazard a guess that most of them are no, on the basis that we never have enough resource that we need in order to undertake our role properly. Do you have information asset owners with day-to-day responsibility for security use, accuracy, retention, and manual and electronic records? So do you have people out in the business who are individually responsible for those options? Now, if you would like to, you can tell me yes or no in the chat to these answers. It's entirely up to you if you wish to share. Or you can keep it private. So type the number 1, 2, or 3. 1, yes or no. 2, yes or no. 3, or yes or no. So did you get 3 out of 3, or did you get 1 out of 3? This is really interesting already. I've got people saying 2 out of 2, 2 out of 3. 1 out of 3. Fantastic. It's good to see people are willing to talk. Okay, moving on. Number 4, clearly set out policy and your business approach to records management. Basically, of the summary of this is, do you have a records management policy? Now, this isn't a case of, is it any good? Because I can hazard my guess that a lot of them are not very good, because they really shouldn't exceed more than 2 to 3 pages for a policy, because ain't nobody going to read a 50-page records management policy. The title in itself sets people sleeping before they've even opened it up. So your policy needs to be neat and tidy and very, very short. Now, I'll forgive you if you have loads of bump that has to go ahead of it, such as you have an organizational policy template that you have to put it on. Oh, you do policy on a page. That's really interesting. I like that idea. Ensure the policy is approved by management, published and communicated to all staff. If you don't meet all 3 of those, so if it's only approved by management and you've not published it yet, or you've not communicated it in any way, then let me know. Because you don't get a full tick for it unless all 3 of those actions have been completed. Review and update the policy at planned intervals or required to ensure it remains relevant. Do you see it? Do you review it every 1 to 2 years? I'd say 1 year is the right approach to this, but not everybody has the ability to do that. Do you undertake a risk assessment of all your records held within your organisation? The risk assessment is often known as information risk. If you already have a corporate risk register, include risks to records, information and data management functions. So basically you need to make sure that your information risks are on your corporate register. They're not in an information risk register to the side. It needs to be joined as part of your whole corporate register so that it's reviewed. Next page. Where applicable, ensure your security classification or marking protocols, such as government protective marking scheme, to identify records that contain more sensitive information. So do you have a security classification? Do you use restricted? Do you use sensitive, personal, sensitive? Yeah. Do you use the central scheme? Establish procedures, guidelines for staff to ensure that you title and index new records in a way that allows you to efficiently manage, retrieve and dispose of them. So an example of that would be international date standard used with a naming convention. Implement procedures to allow individuals to challenge the accuracy of information you hold about them and correct it if necessary, or add a supplementary statement. Do you have an ability to, like a policy that means that records can be updated? and corrected. Make sure that you're keeping a score on your pad because I'm going to ask you to totalize everything at the very end. Incorporate records management within a formal training program. Do you have a mandatory introduction, or do people, as they come into the organization, are they required to do any form of records management training? If they do not, if they have information governance training, that's a no. You need records management specific training. Provide specialist training to those with specific records management functions. So, for example, if you have people who work in archives or in storage, manually dealing with records on a day-to-day basis. Do you promote records management awareness amongst all staff through promotional materials such as posters, newsletters, intranet articles? Do you keep the message going out there about your records? Undertake periodic, put checks as in money. That's oops. That's meant to be checks CKS, not checks QUS. You don't pay people to sort out security. You undertake periodic checks on records security and monitor the compliance with records management procedures. Measure the outcomes of any records security checks or compliance monitoring against key performance indicators. If there's anyone out there who's still scoring extremely low, don't worry about it. At the end of the day, this is purely a checklist that it's a starter for 10. So if you haven't got these kind of things, you know the kind of things that you're looking to do going forward. Yeah, that one. Complete a data flow audit that shows where information is traveling from and to. So you'll hopefully have done this in accordance with information governance with regards to GDPR and data protection, because one of the things that I say about data protection is that if you don't know what you've got, where you've got it, and how long to keep it, you can't be accurately doing data protection. So when you're doing a data flow, in order to fill out a ROPA, and to actively understand the security requirements that are in place, that's doing a data flow, finds out all that kind of information, where it's traveling to and from. Ensure you have a minimum standard for the creation of paper or electronic records, including emails, in place. So do you have an email management process policy? Do you have I'm just trying to think all the kind of things that you could have, but understanding how to look after your G drive, or not placing anything on your C drive, minimum standards basically that you expect of the organization. Do you complete an annual check to ensure all data is being deleted appropriately and action otherwise? People have slowed down responding in the chat now, and I'm wondering if that's people having a bit of a meltdown about what they have and haven't done. But that's okay. Yes, that's it. I'm so sorry. It's like, let's have a joint nervous breakdown together. Do you create a central log / have an information asset register to record which business functions create certain records and which records are vital to the functioning of the business, where you keep them, how long you keep them for, and who needs to use them now and in the future? So I'm so sorry, Marlena. So make sure that you tick all of those in order to get a full tick. You can't be doing the half and half. We do this, but we don't do that. Ensure you take appropriate steps to confirm the accuracy of new personal data or data that you've recorded or retained over a period. So an example of accuracy checking would be if somebody's handwritten something, that you can confirm that what you've read is correct, because there were many times that I've read doctors' letters and things like that, and I've gone, is that an A or an E? Is that Or it's even down to, is this the right person that we're talking about? So you're checking for unique indicators on a document to check that it's the right person. Establish initial and then periodic checks to check that the data you collect is not excessive for the purpose of processing or processing requirements. And remove the data that you've identified as being out of date or inaccurate or no longer relevant for purposes. So to summarize that, it's looking for excess. Yes, very much so, Elizabeth. If you're having a meltdown, remember you're among friends, so please ask questions of one another. I am here to help. I'm not here to kind of like drop the bomb and move. I'm always available to talk this through with. So yeah, sorry, I was going back to that, was that this particular one is about checking for excessive information and getting rid of it if you don't need it. For example, do you need their gender? Does having their gender change anything in how you would deal with them? And removing data is weeding. Do you weed files? I'm going to actively say that not many people are going to have that tick because a lot of you don't weed. I go back to my point about everything going into storage. It goes off site and nobody thinks about it again. We don't do a prep of the file before it goes to off-site to actually get rid of anything that we don't need anymore, or is out of date. So I'm going to suggest that not a lot of people have that. How am I doing for time, Elizabeth? Whew.
You're not yet halfway through, Emily, so you could probably slow down just a tidge. But it would be nice, I think, to have some time for questions at the end. So
yeah.
do keep.
I'll tell you what, we'll do a quick check-in with everyone and check that everybody is okay and how they're feeling about these questions. What we're thinking, guys, use the chat. And I'll just take a quick drink break. That's good to know, Hannah. Will the slides be available at the end? Yes, they will. Does it not automatically go to new messages? We love checklists. Not doing too bad. That's good to know. What number are we in the checklist? Good question. This is out of 51. Benchmarking is one way of looking at it, but I would say more starter for 10, and I will explain that at the very end as to why. I'd like to use these with working groups to try and spread some RM consciousness through the organisation and up our game. Yep. It's been helpful and has confirmed that I'm on the right track with developing records management within my company. Call that a mini clap for you, Francis. I'm sorry, Cara, that I don't actually know what number we're up to, but I should have put numbers rather than checkboxes. That was stupid. Well, we've got 16s and 22s at the minute. Oh, Joseph has been keeping. Oh, sorry, no, Lynn has been keeping a track. I think we're at number 25. Oh, sorry, number 25 is next. Okay, right. Now I've had the opportunity to take a breath and I've understood what's going on in the chat at the minute. Let's carry on. So what we have ahead of us is access, movement and storage, staff and IT is left. Okay, number 25, implement tracking mechanisms to record the movement and ensure the security of manual records between office and storage areas, and also in instances where records are taken off site. An example of excellent would be barcoding your records so that you know at any point where they are in the business. Minimize data wherever possible when transferring data off-site. So going back to my previous point about weeding data, minimize what is actually sent off-site, organizing your records and weeding through them before they go off-site. There's one thing that I've always said about HR files specifically is that a lot of organizations, they don't check that they have all the necessary information before archiving the file or sending the file to offsite, should I say. So an example of, is there a copy of the passport within the file? We don't check. So when it comes back and it's actually needed and someone goes, this person left 4-5 years ago, we've not heard from them since, obviously. Where is their passport? Why did we not ask when the person put their resignation in? Why did we not check their file to make sure that whilst they were still with us, that we could actually ask for another copy of it if we didn't have it? It's all those sort of the cart before the horse. You know, it's fine that the horse is going to take the records away, but have we thought about whether the horse is actually fully strapped up yet? I don't know where that analogy came from. Minimize, log the transfer in and out where appropriate and put checks in place to ensure data is received. Are we sure that records are meeting where they're meant to be? Again, barcoding would be excellent. Always use an appropriate form of transport, e.g. a secure courier. Don't use your gran to take it in her bag of shopping. Don't have somebody holding on to records that shouldn't have access to them because they could do anything. They could open them up, they could spread them everywhere. You need a secure courier for sensitive personal data when transferring data off site. So don't ring a taxi and then just put it on the front seat. Have a member of staff go with the file. Minimize the data being transported. Try and keep it at rest as where possible. And employ security measures to safeguard the data, such as tamper-evident packaging, encrypted devices, or encrypted emails, or secure filing, sharing, or transfer software. Are people still putting in encryption? Like you get the encryption software where they send you a link from a specific encryption software to the person so they can open it up with a password. Is that still the in thing? Do people still use that, or are they using something that is embedded into their Outlook now? Do we have anyone on here that can say what people are actively using in the public sector at the minute? Employ security measures to safeguard the data, such as, no, I've already said that. Store paper records in lockable office cabinets and drawers with higher levels of security around sensitive personal data. Have the option of both. We still use secure file transfer where we don't have a secure link. We have it embedded in Outlook, but I think it's how it appears for the recipients outside the organisation. We do use encrypted email. Yeah, it's one way to use sensitivity labels. That's really interesting. Thank you. That's another question actually for the chat. What would you say out of 100, are you more electronic or paper? Now, don't get me wrong, everyone will have paper, but say, is it 50-50 that we're still actively using paper records, or is it more 60-40? More electronic, 90-100, mostly 95. Oh wow, really interesting. Only generating new electronic. Oh, we're still 50-50, Lynn. That's really interesting. %70 electronic. Wow, that's really interesting. Is that I still know that obviously a lot of organizations still have a lot of paper and still have a lot of stuff in offsite storage. Yes, a lot of Janice, a lot of paper is still out there, but it's just whether it's still being used. 60/40. We have areas of the business that like creating paper copies. People still love to print an email. Why? Um, Ensure keys to offices, cabinets, and drawers are stored securely and records are locked away when staff are absent for extended periods, e.g., overnight. If people are not going to be in the office, then I suggest that people should be locking their cabinets, because you never know who's going to go in unless you have a entry only to certain members of staff on your door. Keeping things locked at all times is best. We're going through past paper files and scanning onto the system. Going through a backlog of stuff. I have a blog about whether you should scan it, Magli, if you would be interested. It's on my website, on my blog, about whether or not it's worth to scan what you're going to scan. So, because scanning is expensive. Consider appropriate environmental controls to protect paper records from threats such as fire or water ingress. Do you do checks before going into putting records in a specific area? It's not the first time that I've been called to an incident of wet files, and I've been kind of going through them with my hands, and then somebody says to me, "Oh yeah, it was a toilet that leaked." I'm sorry. A a what? Is it clean or is it dirty? Um, you could have warned me in advance, and I could have put some gloves on. Um, I've also been in a lot of floods. The floods of 2007, as some out there might remember. Implement a clear screen and clear desk policy with regular. I've got put checks for money in again. I really need to. I really need to sort that out. Maybe it's just money on the brain. Maybe. If anyone would like to give me money in the form of checks, I accept them. Um, it's a clear desk policy with regular checks to ensure compliance. Um, I would say the clear screen is the hardest, especially when there is a lots of clips that are made, and where they end up putting them. I'm just going to shove it on the desktop and I'll tidy it up later. Ensure you have appropriate technology and organizational security measures which are documented within a contract before using any cloud-based storage options. Have you just automatically accepted the terms and conditions of the electronic storage, the cloud storage? Because at the end of the day, what is that? There is no cloud. It's just somebody else's computer. So are you actively amending contracts with your own appropriate security measures in place? Restrict access to record storage to prevent unauthorized access, damage, theft, or loss. Making sure that only certain people have got access to it, whether that be keys or just authorization to go down into a storage or to an offsite storage. Hey, staff. I've already forgotten what number we're on already. I should have thought about this. I should have put numbers. I'm ever so sorry. Staff, implement role-based access and checks access levels regularly. Oh, we're on number 37 according to Lynn. Thank you very much, Lynn, for keeping track. Implement a process to ensure that access to systems holding personal data is authorized by management. Restrict user permissions to the absolute minimum or least privileged. Assign each user their own username and password to ensure accountability. Implement role-based user profiles and access levels to ensure that the access to systems is only given to those roles that require it to complete their work. How many people move a job and still have access to their old job's records? A lot. So think about that in your joiners, movers, and leavers process, that you need to be sorting the movers access out, because that's one of the biggest breaches that are happening within organizations. Is their movers policy is not, it may say that it's available, but is actually being enacted. Is this changing? How many organizations assign ownership of that system to their records manager, I wonder? I would probably say that you need to go and speak to IT, but having a records manager who has an active relationship with IT and they are regularly communicating with each other is key in an organization. Review all network and application user access lists at least annually. Are we asking IT to do this? Are IT aware of that they should be doing this? Have you got that records management and IT relationship in place? Ensure you have ensure you have a robust starter and leaver processes to avoid the risk of unauthorized access or accrual of unnecessary access levels. There should be movers in there as well. Ensure you know what systems access outside the network via a separate entry portal, e.g. offsite storage portal, is to avoid the risk of unauthorized access. So if you have somebody who leaves under a cloud, imagine it's one of your information asset owners who has access to request files, and make sure that his or her access is removed so that they can't access it outside the network. Because they might not be able to access their email, but they may well be able to send hundreds of boxes to your office after they've left as a joke. Or they may even get them delivered to the wrong place, depending on whether you have set addresses set up. Ensure you have a... See, I'm already predicting myself. I have no idea what that was. Ensure you have a robust movers process to avoid the risk of unauthorized access or accrual of unnecessary access levels. Someone's using Otter AI apparently. I wonder, did they actually ask if that was appropriate? Huh. IT, enforcing strong passwords for both network and systems access. Limit the number of failed attempt login attempts. How many should you actually limit it to? That's a good question, actually, to organizations. For those that have it in place, how many times can you attempt to log in before it kicks you out? 3. That's really interesting. Everyone's like 3 before a reset period. Monitor user activity to detect any anomalous news. Complete an assessment of the data you hold and its criticality to your business functions. Ensure your business continuity plans are put in place to prepare for severe disruption. Take regular backups of the systems and data so that you can restore personal data stored electronically in the event of a disaster or hardware failure. Take regular backups of the system and data so that you can restore them in the event of a disaster or need to maintain business continuity. And there we have it. Scores on the doors out of 51. I'll give you a few minutes to sit and work that out. And if you write into the chat out of 51, what number you got. And again, we're all friends here. If you've got a low number, that's okay. I can't show you the last slide just yet. Oh, the previous slide, as in the IT slide. Oh, Paul. There you go. Not a cop out. Hey, 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 hey. Have you got it now, Paul? Can I move on? Being harsh is the right way. Yeah, going back to the IT slide. The only way is up. If you're harsh, that's the only way is up. I'm really surprised at the responses that we're getting, because a lot of the time it's a lot lower, but it depends on how harsh you've been and whether you stuck to my maybe. If I don't know, then it's a no. Or I'm going to have to go and ask such and such if that's correct. All right. So the drum roll of scores on the doors is that the average there is in the 30s, 34, I think is the average. Fair enough. No problem, Catherine. New in post is perfectly okay because that means you've got an opportunity there to really see where you want to go with it. How are we for time, Elizabeth? Hello.
Sorry, it's just coming up to 1:45, so people
Can't hear you, Elizabeth, but don't worry about it. I'll keep going until you kick me off. So the scores on the doors out of 51, the reason why I wanted you to add it up is quite important. And the reason for that is that even if you scored 51 out of 51, it only still classes as good.
All right.
I hate to tell you this, but it's not exemplary, it's not excellent, it is simply good. And that's only if you got 51 out of 51. What are your thoughts on that?
Ooh, it's all gone quiet.
Yikes. Curious what excellence looks like. We've got some work to do. Expected. We're hanging our heads in shame. What does the great checklist look like? Yeah, what does exemplary look like? Who decides what great is? Well, this good element is actually from the ICO. So I mentioned earlier that as a baseline for what good is, it is basically they have a checklist that you can do on their website that then gives you some ideas of what you can do to make it even better. And I say even better is what you can do in order to tick that box to make sure that you've got it correct. So this good isn't my opinion. It's not me saying that means you're good. I think there are certain elements that actually you could do even better to make it good. But this was purely based on what the ICO's checklist gave me. So in order to get 51 out of 51, these were all of the actions that it suggested that you should do. Sometimes a step checklist makes us feel better. It does give you permission to go around and ask the right people the right questions. Indeed. RM depends on good people engagement, and that's always going to be hard. You say that, Penny, but if you want to have a chat, then I'm always happy to assist. Is because I obviously have spent many years doing this now, and I have some tips and tricks to make it better and make it easier, and how to get that communication through the organisation. But that is only whether or not you're able to get me as a consultant to come in and help. Who decides what great is? I guess the ICO decides what great is. But the thing that really intrigued me about doing this now is that I did another webinar yesterday on the BirthLink data breach, and the ICO fined BirthLink for poor records management. And they fined them £18,000. It was originally 45,000, but they reduced it to 18,000. And I wondered whether they used this checklist as a way of proving what was poor. And I'm curious as to at what point on that spreadsheet, I think I might go back through the checklist to find out what classifies as poor, what numbers actually make poor. And what I'll do is I'll get in contact with Elizabeth and ask her to share it with you. If you would like this in a checklist rather than a presentation format, you can sign up to my newsletter, and those that sign up to my newsletter from today will be able to access it. So you can find my newsletter on LinkedIn. It's not the one that's on my website, the one that's on LinkedIn. I will see who adds themselves, and I will get in contact, and I'll share you the checklist in a document format. The slides will be available, so you will still be able to see it, but in terms of typing it up again and redoing it,